Hey everyone, welcome back to another comic review. This time we are finally reviewing the Cuphead comic. Sent in by Eddie. Thank you, Eddie. This is actually a good point in time for me to do a comic review because my wrist is acting up again, and if I can't make comics, the least I can do is talk about them. And I was pretty excited to read this comic. Of course, you probably know of Cuphead being the famous video game that brought 2D rubber hose animation into an extremely difficult video game that all the streamers were playing and losing. And I had no idea that they made a comic based on the Cuphead game, but I did know that Netflix was going to make the Cuphead show, and I thought maybe this comic is an indication of what to expect from that, because I do want to see the Cuphead show when it comes out. It's supposed to come out this year. Supposed to, anyway. But while we're waiting on that, I had a fun time reading this. So first things first, you might think that maybe you won't get the same experience as you get from the game by reading the comic, because there's a lot of very animated visual gags that they wouldn't be able to capture in a comic in like still frames. Maybe you think, oh well, you don't get the same film grainy action that you would get in the video game, and they definitely do try to capture that film graininess. You can kind of see it on the cover that it's not actually a pure white border. They try to add some texture to it. On the black, they had some white film grain. On the white, they had some black film grain. And I really don't like really don't like how it looks with the black on white, because it just looks like the comic is dirty. In fact, when I first opened up the comic and saw that, I thought to myself, oh, there's dirt on the comic. I tried to wipe it off and it wouldn't come off. But you open up the comic and the first thing you get is a title introduction, and you get it in this way that's like frames of a storyboard animation. And just looking at it, you can visually see a lot of movement, even though they're just still frames. In that regard, the artist does a terrific job with this comic. Everything still feels very rubber hosey. Everything still feels like it's moving. There's a lot of detail. The coloring work is perfect. You still get the clever, silly visual gags in there. The comic is an absolute visual joy to flip through. But some of you might wonder, well, what's the story behind the comic? Is it an adaptation of the video game? Is it its own thing? They still have all of the characters from the video game adapted into comic form, so you get to see like a lot more personality behind the characters. You get to see them conversing a lot more without just stating game mechanics. And that's definitely a whole lot of fun. The story itself is actually comprised of multiple short stories in which the characters get into all kinds of different shenanigans. Now, knowing Cuphead is like these very child-friendly designs, very reminiscent of older cartoons that were meant for children, you might ask, is this comic for children? Which would be a very interesting question to ask. I might ask that myself. In a way, it is child-friendly. You know, they do the typical stuff where beer is replaced with soda pop. They're not cursing, or at least they don't curse anywhere where I caught it. They use typical child-friendly cursing, like golly hot dog, you know, that type of stuff. And I do love those, I mean, that's a weird thing to love. I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I don't typically curse really when I'm angry. For whatever reason, whenever I get like genuinely furious, I just start spitting out child-friendly curse words. You know, like mother fudger, that type of stuff. Maybe part of the idea of why I do that is because I try to make myself laugh so I'm not angry anymore. But yeah, I usually just curse for humor purposes and not necessarily because I'm mad about something. So anyway, what I was saying is I enjoy child-friendly curse words. It makes me laugh. And especially I love the 50s feel of the comic itself and the general aesthetic. Some people hate rubber hose animation. I'm a fan of it. But going back to whether or not I would consider this child-friendly, I don't know if the Netflix show is supposed to be child-friendly per se. I certainly know that there were probably not many children playing the Cuphead game. I mean, I'm sure there were some, but a lot of them tended to be adults who were marveling at the classic rubber hose animation, and of course how difficult the game was. It was like a challenge for them to play the game. And if kids were playing it, I don't know if they would necessarily finish it. A lot of the short stories that you have in this comic don't tend to be very morally good lessons to teach kids. If anything, you could argue that it's teaching kids the moral opposite in somewhat of a more parody-like way. It will make you laugh, but it's not something that you want your kids to mimic. In fact, the only real positive thing that I think you teach your kids is that gambling is bad, which of course is a big thing about the original Cuphead video game. Is that gambling is bad. Don't gamble away your soul, guys. Reading this, it gave me the impression that it's not really made for kids, despite being kid-friendly. It's more so made for adults who enjoy kids' content, which I've had discussions briefly about that before, how there's a market for adults that enjoy kids' stuff or stuff made for kids, but now, because they know that market is there, they're trying to make stuff for adults who watch stuff for kids. That's what this is. That's my general impression of it. It's not trying to teach kids moral lessons per se. I don't know if this is supposed to be any indication of what to expect from the Netflix cartoon. I've only seen brief clips from the Netflix cartoon, and I have no idea when that's coming out. I thought that it should have been out already, so I guess we'll have to hold on and wait some news for that. Like I said, it's visually beautiful, it's funny, it's silly, it's got a lot of things that you love from the video game in here. So I would recommend checking this out if you ever see it in stores or see it online. You can find this from Dark Horse Comics. Although, if you are a parent buying this for your kid, I'd recommend reading it first before you decide to hand it off to them, because there's a lot of stuff that I've thought was for kids when I bought it, and then I actually look into it and I realize, oh no, this is not for kids, is it? But if you are by chance looking for something to give your kid, or maybe you're an adult like me who just enjoys kids content, you should check out my comic, Ellie the Eliminator. 2 digital issues are up on the Burning Star website, and right now I got the first draft for issue 3 done. So what I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to do a small comic campaign just to try to print the first 3 issues into a graphic novel that'll actually probably be this length exactly. So hopefully I'll have a campaign for that up soon. If you've never read Ellie the Eliminator, not too late to be a fan. Get updated, guys. But I'll definitely keep you posted on that shebang. So what do you think of the Cuphead comic? What do you think of what's gonna come from the Netflix cartoon? Any and all thoughts you have, leave them down in the comments section below. Remember to like the video, and of course, subscribe if you're not subscribed, because there's gonna be more comic reviews coming out soon, along with other fun videos. But till then, I'll see you next time, guys. Bye!
Program restart.